Hello, hello, hello. Oh my gosh, it's Tabitha Mudra again with,
Nabedi Osorio.
and we are here to talk about Pit Bulls Piranhas, all things on screen, off screen, behind the scenes, and what your roles and goals were. Let's dive right in. Nabedi, I
Yes.
see a lot of description under your name.
Yeah.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us what these roles mean?
So my name is Nabedi Osorio. Um, I have a few titles because I did a few things for this film. In pre-production, I helped find a location. During production, I was the location manager and craft services. The location manager basically takes care of the location, making sure everything is good, checks on pre-existing damages, and makes sure that anything gets damaged has to get recorded and fixed, and basically everything put back in place as it was before we got there. Craft services, I'm basically feeding the entire cast and crew, making sure everyone stays hydrated, fed, nourished, and healthy. And then the first title under my name is score musician. I chose to put that one first because to me it's where my soul is. I am a musician, and I did score the film for post production. So that was one of the most amazing parts of this whole experience, was being able to add the audio emotion of the film.
The audio emotion of the film. Yeah. So, first of all, location manager, I didn't even know I needed one. Like, I was like, yeah, maybe you want them. But when it came down to getting the types of locations that we got, because of their current standing, it was so important that you got there, you were able to speak to the homeowners and take video and photo and make sure everything was just preset and post set and calm them. I don't think Teresa would have let us in her house if it weren't for you becoming her friend.
Yes.
So location manager became a strong arm inside of our locations.
Yeah.
And then craft services, if there were an award for craft services, you would have got it. The whole cast and crew absolutely loved their experience. They felt taken care of. We had snacks, we had hydration, we had all of the joyous things. I know that there was a special salad you made one day. Everyone
Today.
loved that.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of love put into craft services, and everyone felt that. And there are productions, and maybe they know who they are, that don't focus on craft services, and you walk away, you know like, oh, that sucks. So when you have great craft services, it should be award winning. You should get an award for it. But scoring a film, tell me about that process, because it's a very individual, very alone process. You're alone with the scenes, and you are building, as I understand, low tones, mid tones, high tones, and just layering what you want the audience to feel.
Yeah. So the process of that, it's very particular because you have to take time in watching the film and understanding the film. And, there's a lot of movement happening. There's different characters, there's different scenes. So, first off, I want to pick each character and give them a specific sound that's going to follow them throughout the movie. So you understand when you hear the sound, this is the character that's coming, or this is what's happening because this character is in the scene. Um, Sounds are extremely important. I know when I'm watching a movie, the sound is what really makes me move. You could see something and it's great, but if it doesn't have the right sound, it's not going to move you. So I have to sit there and try all different things that I see, that I hear, and maybe I like it, maybe I don't, and then I could, scratch it out and try again and just keep going. So, there were times that I would spend about 10 hours in a day and stay up real late at night because I wanted to really get the most amazing sound that I could for these scenes. There's a lot of heavy scenes, and you know when I want to just create the most amazing experience for someone to close their eyes. You know what you're watching, but when you close your eyes and you can feel the emotion through a sound, then I did a good job.
Well, we will see soon, won't we? We have our
I,
live audience review coming up next week through private link only. And yeah, so we will then be able to ask the crowd, could they see, feel, completely understand what was going on? I know that audio, specifically the score and the sound design, can make or break a film.
yeah.
It literally can take you deeper into the scene or pull you out of the scene, which you don't want. If there's a jarring effect, if there's something that doesn't quite work, the audience will be like, why am I, why am I having this response? Because it just doesn't go.
Right.
And so I'm super excited to see how the audience responds. Do you have any questions, concerns, fears, anxieties around the review of the audience?
Well, like everything that is a surprise, as a musician, whenever I step on stage, I don't know what the reaction of the crowd's going to be. I mean, obviously, if I see my friends and fans there, I know what it's going to be. But when I go on tour and I'm playing to a brand new audience that I have no idea who they are, and vice versa, they don't know who we are, there's that few seconds, or it seems like forever, of silence right after the song ends before the clapping starts. And you're just like, oh my God, did they hate it? Did they love it? I have no idea. So there's a certain excitement and there's also a certain nervousness to it. So those two, like nervous and excitement, go hand in hand. And for me, it's what I live for because that's what I've always done my whole life as a musician. So it's, whatever the outcome is, it is what it is. I'm excited to see it. This is my first time scoring a full, even if it's a short film, it's my first time doing this. So it's something that I've always wanted to do. And the fact that I had the opportunity to actually do it, it was such a beautiful experience for me alone because it brought me to these challenges that I had yet to overcome. And I did it. And there were moments where I was at my apartment clapping for myself because I was like, oh my God, that was so good. And, I don't want to talk about specific scenes or give anything away, but there are some specific moments that are like extreme. And I felt that I was like at the edge of my seat and I was like clenching my fists. And I was like, oh my God, I know what was happening because I've seen it already. But just hearing it all and seeing it all together, it was exactly what I wanted it to be. So, I am very excited and nervous to see what the reaction is, but in general, I think it's more excitement than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the existential dread I'm currently experiencing is it's a 10. But I always know the audience, the interpretation is so wildly mixed bag that I just know it'll be better than what I think it could be. I always run through the worst case scenarios in my head because that's what we do as realists. And then I'm like, okay, but what is the best case scenario as well? And so I have a lot of that going on. I don't know if you experience the same thing musically, but that's where I'm at. I can't wait though. It's going to be so exciting.
Yeah.
What goes on behind the scenes in these roles? So you were expressing a little bit about the score musician and being there, cheerleading yourself, giving each character their own sounds. I know you were talking about layering it, and there were some fascinating points from the score, but what about location manager? I know you do that a lot.
Yeah.
And then a side passion project that you've always had is Nabedi Crocker, which is craft services.
Yeah, cooking in general, being a chef, all that. So with location management, yeah, I've been doing it for almost 8 years now, with all different sizes of crew and all different sets, all different productions. So I've seen the ins and outs. I've worked in multi-million-dollar homes where you can't even breathe on the walls because the paint will fall off. And I've been in homes that are, that a bed falls through the floor, which that actually happened. in one of our locations. But you know, I put out a lot of fires. Sometimes I have cops come up and ask for permits, and I have to show them permits, and I have to talk to them. Sometimes the neighbors are complaining, so I have to talk them down. So you have to be a really good people person and know how to talk. And you know, because I do so many things in real life, I say real life because it's life. Um, I tend to see people in different scenarios, and then after we've had an interaction, I'll remind them, "Hey, didn't I do this for you?" Like the other day, I had a scenario with some cops that came on a big production, and the neighbors were complaining because we were parked on the streets, but we had permits for all this. And at the end of the conversation, the two lady cops had gone to a pizza shop where I made them pizzas, and I said, "Hey, weren't you at the pizza shop? And wasn't it your birthday?" And one of the cops was like, "Oh my God, great memory! You guys are gonna be just fine." So I was like, "Cool," and then everything was fine. But you know, there are scenarios where there's damages that happen, and you know, I obviously have to record that, report it to the homeowner, the production. There's insurance involved, so everything gets taken care of. But I personally like to take care of things myself. So if I'm able to fix something on the spot, then I'll do it. Which that had to happen on location with us. When I said that a bed fell through a floor, that happened with us,
We
and
also knocked through a wall.
we knocked through a wall, and you know, I had to take care of all that stuff. But for me, it's fun because I also am really good with my hands and I love fixing things. And Teresa, the homeowner of the trailer, she was an elderly lady, with some health issues. And when we initially went to get the location, we sat down with her, and because I spoke Spanish and I spoke to her as if she was my grandmother, like we instantly clicked. And till this day, I still talk to her at least once a week just to keep up with her. She was very comfortable with leaving us in her home. It's all she has. And she went across the street with her neighbor and she stayed there all day. I brought her lunch every day. I would walk her back and forth. And she just felt like she knew that I was going to take care of her house if it was mine. So that's one thing that I take a lot of pride in, because the way that I leave things is the exact same way that I found it, if not better. So my role as a location manager is really big because, you know, it's very important for me to stamp my name and know that when it's there, it's going to be of quality. Same thing when it comes to my craft services and my cooking. I put my love into everything that I do, but food is so important because a happy belly is a happy heart. And we had a few people with some nut allergies and some health, some food restrictions. So I had to make sure to cater to everyone, and I separated things and I made sure not to cross contaminate anything. I didn't want anybody getting sick on my set. I wanted to make sure everybody drank a lot of water and stayed hydrated and had snacks, and at all times you had something. And if not, you would call me or like text me and I'll come on, you know, set and take care of a person. So, you know, I just take pride in every single thing that I do, whether it's, you know, sweeping a floor or fixing a house.
Yeah.
And those roles are very important roles. They're key roles to being on a production.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very thorough look. We also had some parfaits. Everybody had those parfaits. They
My
were delicious. Not to mention so many other added bonuses in every which way, including you made friends with someone who helped us get out of the pickle of the bed going through the floor.
yeah,
Rodolfo, I think.
Rodolfo, yeah.
And oh, just thank goodness you're so friendly and able to literally squash any fire that comes up. So, well, I think we just mentioned it. What challenges did you face on this project?
Well,
And how did you overcome them?
so I think the most important thing when facing a challenge is to try to stay calm, because it's happening. It's already happened. What are you gonna do? Freak out about it and be like, "Oh my God, what do I do?" No, let's look at the problem and let's find a solution. Let's not point fingers. It doesn't matter how it happened, how we got there. We're here now. Let's move forward. So to face a challenge, you have to look at the big picture and be like, okay, we'll start here and we'll end here. Let's take care of everything else in between. So when that happened with the bed falling through the floor, Rodolfo, who was a gentleman who lived on the property as well, he's very handy, and you know, he was helping me out a lot, which I'm very grateful for him, because there were a lot of times that it was just me doing these big things, and having him around was great. You know, I made friends with him instantly. Obviously speaking Spanish made him feel very comfortable because that was his only language. And he was very helpful. You know, I told him what happened. I told him, let's try this as a solution. He said, that's perfect. Let's do it. We went in his little golf cart, picked up all the tools and the stuff that we needed, and we fixed the floor. And we made sure to jump on the bed together to make sure that bed wasn't going to go through the floor so Teresa can sleep that night. Because my heart was destroyed to think that that woman wasn't going to have a bed to sleep on.
I
You know,
guess maybe we should tell people how a bed might fall through the floor.
yeah. So this trailer was in very bad conditions. And it's pretty sad that people actually really do live like this. So that's especially why I'm very empathetic. And like I said, I treated this woman like if she was my grandmother. So I'm not going to let my grandmother sleep on the floor, especially a broken floor. She didn't even notice that it broke. You know, I told her about it, but she would have never even known because we actually ended up fixing it to make it better. And we fixed a hole that was in her wall. And it was just the weight that was on the bed with the equipment. There was a person sitting on there. I'm not saying that it was a specific person, but just that trailer wasn't used to having so much action at one time. And we weren't aware of what the limit was of weight in that place. So we did the best we could of having the least people possible at all times inside. But there were some moments that these things were needed where more people had to be in there. So for it being what it wasn't that bad. I thought that it could have been worse because we had, you know, a piece of furniture that didn't belong in there holding a 40-gallon tank of water for the fish. That made me the most nervous because that was a lot of weight. You know, you see water in a tank, you don't think about it, but that's a lot of weight. I forgot how much it was, but I think it was probably 150 pounds alone, just the tank with the water and then the furniture and then everyone else around it and then slamming on the floor and doing all the scenes and all the movement. So when that happened, Rodolfo and I just got in there and fixed it. And as we were doing that, one of the little lamps on her nightstand fell over and the bulb broke, and we replaced that too. So we gave her even a brand new bulb. And like I said, there was a hole in the wall, so we ended up putting some drywall up on that really quick and just fixing it for her. And I think we left her place a lot better than she expected. So that
Yeah.
made me, and that makes me happy when I leave at the end of the day of my production. I'm the first person on set before anyone gets there, and I'm the very last person. I see taillights driving out, and I'm still there making sure I'm walking around. There's nothing left on the ground. And like I said, everything has to be put right back in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because art department is essentially takes everything away and puts what they need up. And then you've already taken the photos as they have as well. And then, so art department has to do all their magic. And then you have to go in and make sure everything is back on the walls. The rug is back in place. The chair is back in place. And so that rigmarole is a big, big assignment.
Yeah, I take very specific pictures of angles and exactly like measuring where on the wall did this furniture lie, how many inches off, how many inches next to the next piece. And it's like people don't even notice that we were there when I'm on set. It doesn't matter what set. And like I said, it doesn't matter the size of the production. It's going to be the same work I give, whether it's 2 people or 200 people.
Well, that sounds like you have a lot of pride, which is another question. I wasn't getting to it yet, but maybe you should skip over there. Pride in the process. What are you most proud of in the whole filmmaking process? I think you're going to say something score related.
Yeah, honestly, like, so in all 3 roles, I'll speak about all of them real quick, but we'll start with craft services. Seeing everybody happy when they knew that it was lunchtime or breakfast or getting the snacks and all that stuff, and how excited they were and how satisfied they were and how grateful they were at the end. You know, when I feed people, I don't even take a bite until everyone else has taken a bite and they're like, and I hear all these sounds, and I don't hear anybody talking, but I hear sounds, and that's great for me. So that makes me feel very proud because, you know, like I said, happy belly, happy heart. And it's a very like family thing. I grew up, you know, sharing meals and just having those moments. So even though these aren't my blood family, it's chosen family and it's friends and it's people that I care for. So I want to take care of everyone. When it comes to location management, I take pride because, like I said, I have had productions that are from out of town come in and they specifically request me because they know what kind of a job I'm going to do. And they know they can rely on me on anything. And I'm going to go above and beyond to make sure that everyone's taken care of, from the homeowner to the production. And that's something that I'm very proud of, because the fact that people are requesting me means that they enjoy not just my company, but my work. And I get work for that reason. So that makes me very proud. I'm doing a good job. And as far as scoring this movie, I'm proud of it in general because as a musician, I've always collaborated with a lot of people my entire career. And this was my first time actually being able to be on something, just focusing 100% of myself and really pouring myself into it and challenging myself. And, it's taking a risk on yourself because you never know what's going to happen unless you take that risk and you take that chance. And I never doubted myself at any moment. There wasn't any moment that I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. It was quite the opposite. I was like, I'm going to do this. I may have used a curse word in there, but I'm not going to say it. But I was like, I'm going to do this. And I did it, and when I was done, like literally I had a deadline and I was pushing send at the last second and my hands are shaking. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing this. And it was really great. It was a fun experience, and I look forward to many more of those, and I look forward to what the future brings.
Yeah, we've done some. I know that PMP Pit Bulls and Piranhas was a unique kind of deadline based in post, but we've done 48 hours where we've had to score the film in like 2 or 3 hours. Like,
Yeah,
you just have to,
yeah,
like, obviously you are coming on a competition and whatever. So it's a little different mindset. So in my eyes, I was like, oh, we have plenty of time because it's not 3 hours in one night or something. But yeah, I got my start in 48, and it was a super wild ride.
and
But
I,
what was your favorite part about being on Pit Bulls and Piranhas set?
there were a lot of favorite parts, but really for me, the magic was when I was watching everyone do what they did, because I was behind the scenes. So I was like, under the tent cooking and getting everything ready. But there were moments when I could go on set to hand someone something, or they needed something, or I just wanted to kind of sneak in for a moment to look. But to see everyone in their element, because I see everyone setting up and then I see everyone breaking down. So there weren't a lot of moments where I could actually watch. So when I had that opportunity to sneak in for a moment and see the magic and see everyone in their element, it made me feel just proud. Like if I was a proud tia, everyone's tia. And for those of you who don't know what tia is, that's auntie. So I was that person where I was just watching everyone do their thing, and I was really proud because a lot of these folks I had never met before and I hadn't seen them in that element. And for me, when I step on stage, that's a side of me that you don't get to see unless I'm on stage. So it's like a magic moment that you like
Mm-hmm.
come into yourself, really. And to be able to watch that happen on many different levels and seeing everyone do what they do and just really focus, because everyone was really passionate about what they were doing. So to be able to watch that from afar as an outsider was really magical.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's like my favorite part is the geniuses all transforming this kind of work of art together. Um, well, let me just jump over to some wild card questions because the last couple questions are very personal.
Okay.
What
Ready.
inspired or compelled you to work on this particular film project?
Well, the fact that we've known each other for what, 16, 17 years now. And, you know, I've collaborated with you on a short film before, did little pieces of a film score with other musicians as well. We've supported each other in the scene many, many times. And I've always enjoyed everything you've done, and I've always kind of like looked up to you. So the fact that I had the opportunity to now create something with you was something very exciting. And it was also an opportunity for me to wear many hats, because I'm able to do so many things and I could actually put all those hats into one pot. So that was fun. And the fact that you asked me to do it, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's really what made it official when you asked, hey, I heard you're a location manager and you do craft services. You want to work on this film? I'm like, let's do it. And then
Yeah.
when the musician part came in, I was like, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen you from the music side just come up with these wild beats, just in thin air. Things that obviously you're a musician, so it makes sense for you, but it's just genius to watch. It's probably like watching, crew folk on set doing their magic things. And so when I watch you or you're trying to teach me about Ableton or something of that nature, and it's just these, you're so fast and so simple. I thought it would be so much fun to have you lead the what we call the score of the film, and yeah, just for the audience, this is a proof of concept, aka a short film. So it is a scene and a half, so 1.5 scenes of 13 scenes in a feature film. And what it serves to do, it serves as a short film, but it will also serve as a proof of concept to get investors interested in producing the whole feature. That's of course the long game, right? In the next couple
Yeah.
of years as I go to film festival. But it's 15 minutes runtime because you literally can't get into festival if it's 15 minutes and 1 second.
Right.
So it has to be 15 or below. And we're cutting right at 14:59. But let's talk about cycle breaking, because the movie is essentially the high arc, like the big concept is this generational trauma and what is cycle breaking. This has no right or wrong or any kind of actual answer. I'd just like to know your thoughts. In your opinion, what qualities or actions make someone a cycle breaker in life? So we know Samantha is, we don't know if she's a cycle breaker or not. We're seeing her go through these unique adventures and scenarios, but we can see that she's got a very interesting point of view.
Yeah, so I guess what I think would take someone to break a cycle is first off believing in themselves, seeing inside and seeing that they have what it takes to do something different than what is expected from them,
Mhm.
And also seeing that there are different opportunities. It's not just one path. There are multiple paths you can take, but which one to choose is up to that person. So you can easily fall in the cycle and just continue going on the same path that was given to you. But then would you do that, or would you rather take the risk? So it really depends on the person. If you're a risk taker, as a child, you don't really know that because you're innocent, you only know so much. But as we start growing up, we learn more about ourselves, what the world has to offer. Back in the 80s, we didn't have cell phones and we didn't have the internet, so we weren't aware of what the world had unless you read books or the encyclopedia or somebody told you a story. So your imagination ran wild. So I couldn't imagine what it would be like at that time to imagine. I mean, again, the imagination. You can read a book and you could think, okay, where the wild things are. This kid went into a forest and then these creatures came out and then they went on an adventure and he was sailing and he was, all these things are happening. So I guess also imagination can play a part in being a cycle breaker, because you could imagine all these things are out there in the world, and then it's that sense of curiosity that makes you want to go try and see what is out there. So again, risk taking, believing in yourself, and curiosity play big roles, I think, in breaking a cycle.
Mhm.
Because a challenge, I don't know what it, like I said, when I step on stage, I don't know what the reaction of a crowd's going to be, but I'm also going to step on that stage and do it, and everyone is different. Every scenario is different. So yeah, curiosity is definitely, I think, the biggest one, because you're curious to know what's out there.
Yeah, I that's a great response. I love what you said in the very beginning. I can't recall what it was, but it was something to do with mindset. Oh, believing in yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's kind of this willful confidence slash drive, a persona, which is where my theory lands, is an identity. Like you must self-identify in some way very strongly. And another friend of mine and I were talking about specifically being in the LGBTQ plus community, that you kind of know you're different from a very young age, but you don't know why you're different. So there's something about having an adverse connection to the world. And I'm not saying everyone who's a cycle breaker is LGBTQ plus. That's not at all. But
Right.
there's something that we can associate in a likeness to this adversity where you go, something's different about this perspective, this understanding that I have about myself and my identity. So I think you have to have an odd sense of awareness to break a cycle. Because if you're unawares, you're going to just keep trucking along. This is the path in front of you. And we've watched many people. I'm certain most everyone can relate to someone they've lost to a cycle, whether that be the underbelly, whether that be just a current of some psychological, who knows what. But most people have someone or someones in their family or friend group that have been very cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just so neat that we're going to watch this character kind of form herself in this film, coming of age. Inside of cycle breaking, there was something. Oh my gosh, I had this great question and then I lost it. Damn it, and we're live. And this is recorded forever.
We'll revisit it.
What was it? Oh, generational trauma. So that's another big topic. And I think a lot of people are bringing, it's more of a household term now. We're talking about generational trauma. What is it? And how do we break that cycle of, this doesn't have to do with generational trauma, but it's closely linked in the sense that there was this story that was maybe on a TED Talk or something like that. And it's about a woman who cuts the legs and wings off of a chicken before she puts it in the pot, right? And she asked her mom, why do you cut the legs and the wings off of the chicken before you put it in the pot? And she's like, that's what my mom did. Mm-hmm. So she went to her grandma and she said, that's what my mom did. And luckily, her great grandma was still around. She went and said, great grandma, why do you cut the wings and the legs off of the chicken before you put it in the pot? Oh, honey, I just didn't have a big enough pot.
Yeah.
So, and the story goes, generational trauma is somewhat like that too. We behave or we see something, we don't ask why, and we just do it anyway.
Do it, yeah.
So, oh, I saw this. My mother always did it. My mother always did it. So, and that's oftentimes how I've seen traumas passed down. It's just an unawareness, a not reaching out for help or maybe therapy or whatever else is needed to break down that specific trauma. So, yeah, but how would you define generational trauma?
I mean, when you cut the legs and the wings of a chicken off before sticking it in a pot. Yeah, just like you described it, following patterns without noticing that you're doing it because you grew up seeing it, and it's just something that we tend to do. But I think nowadays there's so much more sense of awareness all around, where I see young kids, schooling me on things because I teach music to kids and I'm around them a lot, and they tend to see things differently, which is very interesting. So these newer generations are a little bit more aware, and it could be because they have the accessibility of the world in their hands, you know?
Mm.
So when they see things, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And maybe you shouldn't either. And then you're like, wow, you're right. Maybe I shouldn't do that. You know, so I think, like you were saying, sense of awareness is a big role on a lot of different scenarios. You know, you see what's happening, you see the big picture, and then you decide on which direction you want to head. It's kind of like the way that I view life. And I talk about this sometimes, not all the time, but I think it's really important to say it out loud, because the way that I see life is like where you're driving a car, right? And you have a rear view mirror. And in the rear view mirror, you're going to see what's behind you. There could be an image on that rear view mirror. As you start driving forward, the image starts disappearing, but it's still physically back there. You'll always remember it. Are you going to focus on that small mirror, the image is disappearing? Or are you going to look at the windshield in front of you with a world of opportunities waiting for you to drive towards? So you have all this ahead of you. Which direction are you going to take? That trauma, that thing will always be there. But can you move forward from it? Can you go a different direction and break out of it and form something new?
Mm-hmm.
It's very much possible. But again, it's all, you know, mindset, and it's all being secure within yourself. And there's a lot of work that goes behind that stuff. It's not easy, you know, it's a challenge, and it can be done and things can be overcome, but things take time and things take work. You can't just snap your fingers and everything goes away, you know?
Yeah. Wow. You had me lost in my thoughts about, do I focus too much on the rearview mirror? Because I have a strong tie to where I come from. And I don't know to what degree it has a hold on me all the time. I'm quite affected by much of my upbringing, but it's like I'm also quite removed. 24 years I've been in South Florida by choice. And there are brilliant, wonderful things that I miss very much. And then there are these things that the very reasons that I moved very far away. And I don't know. I also am so happy that life handed me the lemons, or whatever analogy you want to throw at it. I'm so grateful because I'm so happy my perspective is the way it is. And I don't know always if I try to stay in the present as often as possible, but really reflect on my past. And then I have hope for the future, but I don't always know what the future holds. So as a realist, I have, my dualities of the best is yet to come, but so is the worst. Like I don't know ever what that means. I kind of just want things to be chill forever. I would really, really dig that. So let's talk about something that I don't know if you'll have an answer, but I think you will. The impact and influence. You've seen the film. You have an edge on everyone I've interviewed. They're all about to see the film. You've been very intimate with the film. What do you hope this film will achieve in terms of its impact on audiences or society?
Well, actually, I hope that people will have a sense of empathy for others, because in reality, no one knows what someone's actually going through, or what they've been through, or what they've been through and where they come from. So I think it's really important, especially in the world that we live in now, where everyone's so disconnected, and, you know, that connection is really important to have. So I think that having a little more open mindedness and awareness and empathy for people, because again, we don't know why that person is acting a certain way. Someone could be acting really mean and really like short, and you're like, man, that person's messed up because they're doing this and they're talking to me like that. But take a moment and like ask him, hey, are you okay? Like, you want to talk about something? Like, I'm here for you. Give them a space, you know? And we're not always able to give that space to someone, but I think it's important to hold a little bit of space for people, because again, we are all walking our own paths, and they're challenging. Everyone's path is challenging in whatever capacity for them on their path. You know, we're all different. We all come from different places. We've all had different experiences. So I think for me, the biggest thing is for people to just open up their eyes, look around, see all the different people around them and be like, man, maybe they've been through something too. Like, let me be a little nicer. Let me be a little bit more patient, or let me just listen a little more and be more present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think kindness is one of those things. If we could all bump up the kindness bar a little, it's we just need a little more kindness throughout, sprinkled throughout. I know Marley Q runs a kindness crew, and it's very awesome. Her whole mission in life is to spread kindness, and I always think of her because when we are, when someone's fighting over traffic or parking spot or something so small like that, you're like, what else is underneath that reaction?
Right.
What urgency do they have, or sense of awareness are they working with? I tend to dislike the public very much and cocoon myself at home. But when I go out, I try to just imagine, like you're saying, is like just have the empathy and the compassion. I may not know everyone's story. I don't know why everyone's doing what they're doing, but they are on their own journey, and there's a sense of acceptance in that, a blanket radical acceptance,
Yeah.
In public understanding. So that's a whole nother psychology. But
Next interview, we'll talk.
Yeah. How do you? Okay. So I just have two really personal questions. They're super fun.
Let's do it.
Oh, hold on. You actually helped write this one. I forgot. Is there any one person that stood out to you on set? This is your shout out, your highlight moment. Who was it on PMP? And the crowd goes wild.
Wow. Well, like I said, I didn't really get to watch a lot of the stuff happening on set, but I got a kick out of watching you being behind the camera, specifically because I got to see the film and see how beautiful these shots are, these angles. And when I'm watching a movie, like, I'm paying attention to that stuff. Photography and film is a little, I would call it a hobby for me that I've always enjoyed. And I always look at things in a specific way because I see beauty in a lot of things. So when I see someone on the floor, bent down, like you had the camera on the floor at one point pointing up, and I couldn't see how exactly you were filming Sherry. But then when I saw the scene and saw exactly how you filmed her, it was mind blowing to me, because I was like, I would have never known that that's how you're going to capture her. So for me to watch you in your element with that big easy rig on, easy rig is this like contraption with a pole that comes up and the camera's hanging here, and like you're holding it and you're doing all these things, and that alone is heavy. But to see you doing these things and going into little areas and being in the tiniest spaces, and like, you had such a calm demeanor the entire time. And you were just like, let's do it. Let's just go forward. We had a lot of challenges, and you're like, well, we did it. Let's keep going. And you stayed calm the whole time. You may have been freaking out inside, but you never showed that at any point. So I thought that was something to really highlight, because, even though I've known you for so long, to see a person in their elements and really see who they are is a beautiful thing. So to have that opportunity to see you do that, and then actually watch all of this without sound, just watching the visual of it, what you were seeing, you brought it to life. So that for me was something that I want to shout out.
Aw, shucks. I have that scene of Sherry on the floor. Should we watch it real quick?
Let's watch it.
Yeah, I have it right here. Show it.
You do what you want to me. You want to kill me.
Amazing. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So a little disclaimer, the sounds that you guys heard on that is just a scratch track that was made for the editor to properly edit. Because you got to give the editor inspiration to edit properly. So that is just a scratch track. That isn't what is the actual score. But when scoring this film, I've spoken to you about this already, but I think it's something that I should talk about. When I'm writing the parts and I'm editing every little piece, I'm moving sounds perfectly to movements. So there's one specific scene that I won't talk a lot about, but Sherry has these specific sounds to her, and she's stepping in this moment, and the sound follows her step. And there's a moment where she hesitates to step, and you're hesitating for that sound to come in, and then she finally steps and it comes in. And that just like made me like my mind blow, because again, like sound makes something so much better. So I'm excited for this because
Yeah.
I really took my time. I watched you do your magic, and I wanted to make it extremely important for me to match your magic so we can make something really big together.
Absolutely. I listen to so much film music and scoring and the quartet and this composer and that composer. So you knew my inspiration. And I feel a lot of incredible amount of trust in you for taking such a huge thing on, because people will not, it's the strangest thing. People will not forgive audio issues.
Mm-hmm.
Score being part of that. So post sound, the score and the sound design, all of that. Because they're like, what happened? How come I can't hear it properly? Like what? It's too confusing for a viewer. You can mess up your visuals all day. That's my like strongest part of filmmaking. I can scene stir anything, but the post audio, the score, and the sound design of just placing that whip or that cricket or that like all those little noises have to be perfectly placed for an audience to fully get the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. How exciting. Is there, what is there's 3 questions, but I'm skipping one by accident. The advice you would give to your younger self in respect to your role on set. So any advice to like other folk who might want to get into any of these, score musician, location manager, craft services, any kind of on-set experience, what advice would you give them?
I would just say to take the risk and try things. I mean, challenge yourself. Don't stay within the box. Like think outside the box, be the best problem solver you could be. Believe in yourself and put love into things, because it makes a difference when you care about what you're doing. Don't just do it to do it. Do it because you want to do it, and do it right. Because that might be the first of many or the last.
Something I noticed about you though on set is you put love into it, but you also anticipate, and you're very timely, like you're quick. So I think that comes with quite a bit of experience. It was wild because you were so on top of the anticipatory things, and it was like all figured out. And I of course did my best to preemptively anticipate all the needs of every person on set and make sure they had everything they would need. And then you had made sure everyone had everything they needed. It was just like such a wonderful domino effect. But yeah, that's kind of, because when I put love into something, it takes me longer.
Well, I have a really big heart, and I have watched my mom as an example. My mom has always been a woman who's been very passionate and very loving and very caring about not just herself, but her surroundings and the people who surround her. So I've had her as an example to grow up with, and she's my best friend and my biggest influence in who I am. So I'm very grateful to her. And I always shout her out, even when I'm on stage, I say, oh, I'm like this because it's my mom's fault, or I do this because of my mom. And I think that it's important that I say that because it is a big part of who I am is my mom. And love is a big part of our world. And it's easy for me to just pour that in there because it's the only thing I know.
Yeah. What is the greatest lesson you've learned in your life?
The greatest lesson that I've learned in my life is you'll never know unless you try. And I've been presented a lot of situations and opportunities that I may have never done before, but I'll say, let's do it. And what's the worst that can happen? It didn't work out, but at least I know that I tried it. Chances are I'll do really good at it and I'll continue doing it, whatever it is. And I think that I've learned a lot about myself in putting myself in those positions, so I think the greatest lesson is knowing that I believe in myself,
Mhm.
and there have been times that it's just me, and I've been faced with a lot of really big challenges in my life. That's a whole nother interview. But I have seen what I'm capable of doing. And again, I do it all with love. And in even the darkest moments, I find humor and laughter and a little bit of joy and a little light, even when it's the darkest tunnel. And that's just all in perspective. So
Mhm.
knowing that I can do that for myself and then share it with others, I think that's one of my greatest lessons.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thanks.
If you had a magic door that opened to anywhere, where would it lead you?
I Probably two places. I would say I would like to open a door that will go to multiverses so I could see the different variants of myself to see what I do in all these different worlds and see like, oh, that's cool. I do that there and I look like that. And then also, I've lost a lot of people in my life, so I would love to open a door and see them all healthy, happy together, be able to hug them and high five them and laugh with them and just share food and love and laughter and joy and just be in their presence again. That'd be pretty awesome.
Hmm. Yeah, multiverse and the heaven on earth scenario is very nice. That concludes everything for the interview, unless you have any final thoughts.
Well, I have a question for you.
Oh,
Yeah,
uh-oh.
yeah. You weren't expecting that one, huh? As the tables turn.
What you got?
I would like to know how you feel at this very moment where we stand right before, let's say today is Friday, so we have T minus 6 days before the screening. How do you feel in seeing the process of where you started in what, 2017, 2018, when you're like thinking about making this, and then where you are right now? How do you feel?
Well, it's curious because why did it take so long? We had a global pandemic. I like to move a little faster, but filmmaking is not a fast industry. It's a slow run. You want to make sure everyone has time with their craft. And in this particular case, it took 2 years to find a location. It took Google Maps walking around to find another location. These were the hardest locations of life. I couldn't even hire a location manager. They were like, I don't know how to find the locations you're looking for. So going through those hurdles to fast forward, be at the screening moment where a live audience is going to review it and then give us Siskel and Ebert anonymous reviews that day live. It's really exciting. It's very nerve-wracking. I've talked to two of my colleagues about, first of all, how much should I care for audience reaction? And second of all, why is it so hard for me to watch my own work in front of a bunch? It changes, like the experience is like so uncomfortable. And it's already an uncomfortable film, but it's not uncomfortable for me to watch in that way. It's the fact that I don't know the perception of every person in that room. Like, I know a few people are going to just love it. They're going to be like, this is my jam. I love this kind of film, but they're in my niche. They know the type of investigation discovery stuff that's going on. It's got heavy themes. I'm very nervous about how heavy the themes are. You know, I had a person read the script and state you know, a very critical statement. I loved it, but the more critical it is, the more it stands out. And I was like, yeah, so it is a bit of a trauma drama. And yes, I am still going to do it. There's a need or a have to for certain projects in your life as a creative person. And I'm like a project horse. I just love doing projects, but this was one I had to do versus some like the lenticular project. I really want to do it.
Right.
I don't have to do it.
Right.
This one I had to do. And the fact that my Aunt Beverly is coming in amongst the Perea, who are some of my closest friends that live all over different countries, other states. So close friends are coming in to see this really intense story. And so I'm overall proud and incredibly nervous.
You're going to be fine. It's going to be great. And with that said, I think it's very exciting and it's going to be amazing. So see you all out there May 28th, and by all
March 28th.
March. Wow. I'm glad I said that. Yes.
So
March.
May 28th is also a very happy day for me.
That's it. I was thinking about that. It's for you.
So birthday, screening day, whatever have you. Yeah, if there's anyone who really wants to come, it's a private link. You have to know someone on cast and crew. If I've forgotten you for some reason, please text me. And same with Nabedi. So that we can get your butt in a seat and we can do this together.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah.
And thanks
I'll have
for
you
watching
again
out there. Yeah, anytime.
Post the screening. It'll be fun to get like little testimonials and
yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's it for Tabitha and Nabedi. We are going to end this stream.